Hello and welcome back to Traffic Talks. I've decided to start recording on a different set of earphones in a different app. And it's a bit of a challenge because I'm hearing myself speak. And that was one of the things that I really do not like. So I'm going to see if I can do this. It's really difficult already, but I'm going to force myself to get through this. So straight on to this week's topic. What's been happening this last week is that my brother has been saying things can flip on a dime, which is exactly what has happened this last week for me. There's just been a whole bunch of crazy things that have happened, and it's been a lot to deal with. As per usual, I'm not going to give too much away. Not because I don't want to say anything, but rather there are other people involved and I don't want to be putting their business out in the streets, if you get my drift. So rather than focusing on other people, which you should not be doing, I'm just going to take this lesson and use that for the podcast, which is to roll with the punches, which I think is a very nice thing to roll over from last week's one, where, you need to start doing your things and striving for what you want. But those things, like my brother said, can change on a dime. Things can flip, things can go wrong, or what you thought you wanted to do was not what you actually want to do. I mean, now that you started doing it, you're like, you know what? Maybe this isn't for me. And that's perfectly fine. It's one thing that you've learned you don't want to do. And instead of being stuck or forced to stick it out, you've decided, you know what? It's not for me. I tried it. I didn't like it. I thought I might. It's over. I'm done. I'll find something else. And that's perfectly okay, first of all. Secondly, you might find that, you started with it, you enjoy it, but maybe it's taking up a lot of your time, or you didn't expect it to be as draining as it actually is on you, because now maybe you have to fork out time in your evening or your morning, or you're spending a lot of your weekend time doing whatever it is that you're doing. To continue from last week's podcast of jumping into things, this one is more of going with the flow of things, taking the path of least resistance, but not in a negative way. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Sometimes you need to put in effort, and that's fine. But if something is really pushing against you to the point where you actually resent whatever it is, maybe it's best to, step away and just be like, you know what, I tried it, it didn't work, I'm fine with it, I tried, moved on. And it's much better than wondering, would I have liked it? I could have been so great at it, whatever it is. That's essentially what this is. Life is unpredictable. That we all know. And a lot of things can happen that we are unprepared for or definitely unexpected. But surprisingly enough, there are a lot of things we can control or at least adapt to. And for the most part, if we can't control it and we can't adapt to it and we can't change it, the least we can do is accept it and move forward. Because if you're living in the past, you're not going to move forward. You're not going to be able to stand in your presence and accept where you are, and you won't be able to move forward unless you accept it and let go of your past. Being able to adapt and to change what is going to happen moving forward is one of the best things that we can actually do for ourselves. And this lesson or tool of being able to adapt to the changes going on around us and try and make something better of it is something that we don't learn until it's forced upon us, and usually very late. A prime example of this is when my mother was gone during the initial lockdown period, where they just announced like, okay, Thursday everyone's going into lockdown level 5, no one's allowed to move, etc, etc. My mom was already in PE for like 4 days. The Wednesday my brother scrambled to drive and fetch my sister, but my mom stayed, and it was hard because we as a family had to adapt to the change of her not being there. We had to adapt to the small things and the big things not being done, and honestly, it was hard. This is the same for anything that can happen in life. You need to adapt to what's going on around you, accept what you cannot change, and change the things you cannot accept, as the quote usually says. Instead of seeing this as a disruption to your life, as something that's destroying it and wants to just ruin everything, you should see it as an opportunity to improve whatever aspect of your life it's changed, and see it as something like, maybe I can change something around this for the better, even if you wouldn't normally change it. It's forced upon you, so why not make the best of the opportunity? I can think back and go back to when I started my job in Feb. To be honest, I'm not a morning person, and I don't think I ever in life was a morning person, which is a topic for another day because I don't see anything wrong with not being a morning person. Not being a morning person is not a bad thing, and it's also not a negative trait, but like I said, topic for another day. With me not being a morning person, I had to get up very early to drive to work, and the drive to work was really long. I could have just been complaining all the time, which I'm not gonna lie, I did. But it was a small pity party, and then I moved on because I had to adapt to my new norm. The fact that I had to get up early for work was exactly that. It was a fact. There was no choice. I had to get up early. But I decided to make the best of it. I decided to approach it from the aspect of I want to make a good change. Because if I approached it with a negative mindset, I'd end up resenting my job or have negative feelings about it before even being there for long. I took that as an opportunity to change up my morning and evening routines. I have talked about it previously, but I'll just quickly recap. I essentially had to rework my entire morning and night routines because previously I would get up later in the mornings and stay up later at night because that's just when I work best. Now I had to completely reverse that. I had to do all my things early in the evening, make sure I got to bed early, and then get up early the next morning for work. And I'm talking get up at 4:30 and be gone out of the house at 5:30. So there was not much time to do anything in the morning. And then I'd finish work at 5, take an hour to get home, if not that hour to drive to the gym, and then come home. So there was not a lot of time in the evenings to do anything. And that just led me to prepping things much better. So there wasn't a lot of time to do laundry in the week. When am I going to hang the washing out? Overnight? No. So I had to really plan my weekends as well. What do I need to get done for my week? What do I need to do outside of my home? Going to the mall, buying something that I might need for the week. Because there was no way I'd be able to get it done during the week. So it made me, A, rework my routines, which was beneficial for me. But B, I was also able to just in general get better time management skills, which is obviously a skill that not only applies to your personal life but can be used in your work life as well, which it has been quite useful for work because I have to plan things now, especially since I'm working from home. Yes, I'm not waking up at 4:30 anymore, but I still get up early because working from home does have its own challenges. But once again, it's that thing of adapting and accepting and trying out things that work. I'm going to both admit and warn you that these are firstly not changes that happen overnight. Having to rework something is exactly that, it's work. The changes can happen instantaneously and then everything is shot to hell, but essentially the changes that you make do not happen overnight. And if they do, the progress doesn't happen instantly. And then the second thing I want to say is the changes that you implement may not work the first time. You might try a new routine for yourself and be like, this routine sucks. It's stupid. It's not working for me. What is going on? Why am I still sticking to it? And that's when you're going to just have to adjust and try again. And lastly, you may decide to abandon all things that have changed and go back to normal. But you can still keep the lessons you learned. With my mom being gone, we had to adapt to a whole new routine, a whole new way of living, a whole new way of doing things. And when she came back, we fell into old habits. However, we did, show her our routines and how we did things. And some of those things we still keep and implement to this day. And it's been months. It may have gone back to normal, but there's still positive changes we've influenced and incorporated into our new norm. That's the beautiful thing about it. When it's come to my work, my new normal is working from home, but I've still incorporated some of those routine changes to make sure I'm prepped for my next day. It's still been a change from having to wake up that early to working from home to just all the routine changes and things. And it's taught me a lot that I'm actually quite grateful for. I will say though it's been a huge trial and error thing. And that's why I brought up the point of some things may work, others may not. And that's the beauty of being able to do these things. You try one thing, maybe it works for you, maybe it doesn't. You try something else, you get some advice, someone says, check this out, maybe this, and boom, you find something that works for you. Or even it's a combination of things, Trial and error is generally the way to go when it comes to these kinds of things, because that's the best way you're going to figure out what works for you. Everyone is different. Find what works for you. Essentially, I'm going to finish with this. To wrap this podcast up, I'm going to say something that I've been telling my sister this past week that has just been so crazy. And that is, a lot of people say the glass is either half full or half empty. If you look at your positivity and your negativity in the same way, it seems like it's as easy to be negative as it is to be positive. So by just choosing to be positive, you're going to see things in a brighter way and not be so bogged down with things. So that's what I want to definitely encourage you to do. Try and see things in a positive light. And like with everything that I've mentioned in this podcast, it's not going to be easy. It's going to take time. And like with all habits, the more you do it, the better you get at it. Tell yourself, I'm going to start seeing things more positively, trying to see the brighter side, trying to see the lesson in things, and you'll get there slowly but surely. And if you catch yourself being negative, don't chastise yourself. Just be like, you know what? That was negative. I'm gonna turn the dial, as my mom says. Turn the dial, change the frequency, and tune into a positive mindset and be like, that was negative of me to say. I'm rather going to phrase it like this, even if it's just in my own mind, and say, that was a negative thing. I'm going to say it like this and be positive about it and move on with my day. So that's that. Roll with the punches. Keep going. And if it doesn't work for you and you've tried and tried and tried and you can't try anymore, that's fine. You've tried, you've done your best. You know if you need to give up or you need to keep going. I think people have this mindset of, if you fail at something, you're a failure. You're not. If you failed at something and you've tried and you know you've tried your best and it just doesn't work out, move on to something else. It was not meant to be. I only have 2 more things to say. I'm very confused at why I'm going on. Like I said, it's just been a crazy week. I'm up and down. I'm trying to keep this podcast going and trying to actually batch my work. It hasn't been going that well. So I've been trying to batch my podcasts and try and get it better for you guys, and it's just not been going smoothly. Like it is, trial and error. I'm also going through it. 2 more things that I need to say. 1, a shameless plug for my Instagram account that I'm starting. It will be launched tomorrow, as promised, the 1st of September. I'm hoping to call it Pyro's Traffic Talks as the handle. I will see how it goes. I will also see if I can put the link in the description, but I'll let you know how that goes in next week's podcast if it doesn't appear there, so keep an eye out for that. And this week's song is an oldie but a goodie. It's All I Do Is Win by DJ Khaled. It was an incredible song. It features amazing artists that I cannot even mention, but I just have been playing that song this whole week because I've needed that positivity and inspiration, and just telling yourself, all I do is win. Such a good phrase to use. So I would definitely encourage that. I've been saying this to my sister. I'm not even sure if I mentioned it in last week's podcast, but slay the day. So that's my message to you. Tell yourself that all you do is win and go forth and slay the day. I'm done. Love you. Bye.